United States sees these as separate processes. The review of Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terror was instructed by the president, and we have had a separate process of discussions with the Cuban government about reestablishing diplomatic relations and reopening embassies.
State Department spokesman Jeff Rathke talking to reporters after the historic announcement was made that the U.S. was indeed taking Cuba off the list of state sponsors of terrorism. That announcement came after Congress made no move to block the action within the required 45 days. And of course, President Obama announced his plans to take Cuba off the list back in April. A good topic to address with our political panel. Here on the anchor desk, Glen Downs, the Chief of Staff to Congressman Walter Jones of North Carolina, and from Newsmax, New York, Ellis Henican, noted radio and TV commentator. So Ellis, Cuba is off the list. Is it full steam ahead for diplomatic relations?
Yes, and at last, I might add. JD, there are a lot of awful nations in the world, and quite a few of them aid terrorists. Cuba's so far down the list of terrorist sponsors that they should have been yanked off that list probably 20 or 30 years ago. But yes, high time and full speed ahead.
Yeah, so Ellis is excited about this, Glenn. He wants to see diplomatic relations restored with Cuba. What's your take on this?
Well, gosh, JD, the two things are separate, but just because you want to recognize someone doesn't mean that you gloss over terrorist supporting activities. And that happens too often in the country. And that's why people lose confidence in government.
When you take a look at the Castros still in charge in Cuba, this move just means the Castros and the communists will maintain control there, does it not?
Well, obviously, and it obviously happens with other countries like this as well. And of course, are they sponsors of terrorism? It depends on what the word is. And here we go again.
Yeah, well, let's go to Ellis. Do you think that suddenly Raul and Fidel Ellis are going to become sweetness and light and things will just be peachy keen now with Cuba?
Here's what we know, JD. Whatever we've been doing there hasn't been working. We got to try something else. If in half a century this program of trying to ignore them, trying to punish them, trying to hide them, trying to poke them didn't get us any more results than it got us, it's about time to try something new. By and large, I think it's better to interact with people if you want to train and if you want to change them instead of shunning them. The old shun in Havana hadn't served us very well.
Well, it's interesting you should mention shun versus the embrace. Kind of a curious poll we're seeing from Rasmussen today, shedding some light on illegals currently living in the United States, the whole prospect of voting. Now get this, the poll reports 53% of Democrats think that tax-paying illegals should have the right to vote. We should note that 21% of the GOP goes along with that. Glenn, you see these numbers. What on earth is going on here?
Well, I think it's part of a larger, very disturbing trend where we see the rule of law in our country is beginning to break down. And people that want things to happen where laws don't provide for it, they just make up law out of whole cloth. And when there's laws that exist that they don't like, they just ignore them. And the day is going to come when a lot of people, including liberals, really rue the day of the loss of the rule of law.
Ellis, you are always reminding me that somehow it is cruel to have some sort of concern about the illegal community. Should illegals be allowed to vote in the United States?
I would say bigoted, not really cruel, JD, in your defense on this one. But listen, I would rather do it in order. I mean, let's legalize them and then let them vote. That's probably a better order to do it in. But my goodness, this just reflects what most Americans understand. Common sense tells us that this current system isn't working. These people are here for good. Let's get them under the legal umbrella. Then Glenn can have his wish. They'll be living under the rule of law. They'll be doing like Americans can. Let's give them a chance to do that, guys. Can't we agree on that much at least?
You know, Glenn, somehow I get the sneaking suspicion that if the majority of illegals were not going to vote Democrat, those on the left might have a little different opinion of this.
Well, no question about it, but they're sort of paradoxical and oxymoronic to talk about getting them legalized so that we can then live under the rule of law. And if you ignore the rule of law on the front end, you can't expect people to live by the rule of law on the back end.
Interesting to talk about the rule of law, and there's a big story on our parent website, Newsmax.com. Several members of the Republican Party want to see the Attorney General prosecute Lois Lerner in the IRS scandal. 20 seconds apiece. First to you, Ellis. What about that?
You know, if she violated laws, punish her. If you have evidence against her that actually proves criminality, bring the case. That's what prosecutors do. I got no problem with it if the evidence is there. But let's get away from the politics of the thing if we can.
Well, okay, we'll get away from the politics. Looks like politics is what kept any type of indictment away, Glenn.
Well, the problem is a lot of people aren't being indicted for or prosecuted for lots of things in this country. And if the person that's the decider is the Attorney General appointed by Mr. Obama, you're going to see about the same number of prosecutions going forward that we've seen already.
Fair enough. Glenn Downs here at the anchor desk. Ellis, Henican, Newsmax, New York. Gentlemen, thank you both.